alongside Kanavi. But we do have way more early pressure here from LNG. With the likes of the Jarvan, Rumble once he hits level 6 as well, you really can fight a lot better.
I'd say the way to differentiate these two comps, because you just set it up, right? Both of these have tools in the early game. Is for JDG, they have a lot of pick potential pre-6. They have things like the Lucian, like the Elise, of course, having the Blitzcrank. But on the side of LNG, it's all about hitting that level 6 point, you know, the hot pot combo, having the Wukong ultimate. That's when Light will start having kill pressure with his Chains of Corruption. So we're looking at 6 for LNG. We're looking even earlier for the side of JDG.
JDG, once again, the ones that have to put their foot down on the accelerator pedal. And actually the Colonel, he's favoring LNG so far this game. Once you get past the 10-minute mark, he's reckoning LNG are the ones with a compositional advantage. But as you rightly say, that can very much change if JDG can make things happen first.
It's really amazing to see that the Colonel agrees with me. First few levels are all JDG focused. Then it's about what can LNG do. When you look at JDG's comp, it really is just about getting ahead and being able to snowball. Again, when you have things like the Elise and the Blitzcrank, once we get to the mid game, what do they really do? You have the short range in something like the Lucian. It becomes hard. Worth
looking at the runes there. We are going to see Lethality Varus coming through from the side of Light. Not the on-hit that we saw from Loken in game number 1.
Also, Maple going towards the Predator, which is a lot less about your laning phase where that comment becomes really critical in your trade patterns. And it's just about being able to, in this case, follow the Lucian or get to a side lane first.
Blue Mao's hook goes slightly wide there. 2v2 going to be relatively even, definitely slightly in favor of LNG though. And Duan, he's not done just yet. Going to consistently keep trading here. And LNG will hit level 2 first.
And this is what we see, that in these like consistent long-term trades, LNG comes out ahead. It's all about short burst coming out from JDG, and also a lot more about skill shots, right? Syndra, I guess both sides is about skill shots, but at least LNG do still have the auto attack damage and stuff like that to back it up, right? You don't have that for JDG.
Yeah, I mean, especially at level 1 and level 2, you don't have any lethality anyway, so you've not really stylized this Varus. He is just going to be an out-the-box AD carry that does a lot on a base level with the Doran's play.
In mid lane, this is just how the matchup goes. Lucian will always be able to bully out this Rumble. It's going to be very easy to dodge a Harpoon.
Flash forward, Cocoon goes down onto Light. He's going to be ignited as well. One more auto finishes the job. And now they look for Duan as well. Already flashed. A couple more bits of damage will finish it. Kanavi already 2 on the board.
Making his way towards the bot lane. This is not typically what we see with JDG, but when you draft the Syndra and Blitzcrank, this is what you need to do. You need to find these kills in the bot lane and start this snowball rolling.
You said just a moment ago the way that JDG wins this game is accelerate right from the word go, set up with early picks, and Kanavi, he's reading you loud and clear, man, because that's exactly what he's looking to do.
It's also confusing that, again, LNG also know that, right? They know, hey, as long as we get to about level 6, level 7, 8, we are fine. And they're contesting this wave so aggressively. Sure, they're winning out in the long-term trades like we saw, but it just gave Kanavi so much room to make that play.
But it feels the same as game 1, right? That same story happened in the top lane. It was FLICKR that was pushing way too aggressively, wasn't respecting that we could see a gank from Kanavi. This time around, it's over on the bottom side of the map. But ultimately, the conclusion is the same.
Conclusion is the same, but for LNG, it's still not that bad, right? It's not as dire as it looked game 1, where you really had no avenues to get back into the game. We do see that FLICKR is on this Wukong, so of course has very high base damages. Once you hit that level 6 mark, we can see some kind of combination with the Jarvan. And once Rumble gets the equalizer, then it's all about these 3v3 and 4v4 skirmishes.
And I mean, you mentioned the level 6 mark. They've already got the spicy hot pot from Maple and XX. You got the Wukong in there now to stir things up a little bit, make sure that it's all nice and mixed together, and get those spices going.
You got the box from Duan, just kind of like keeping it all together as well.
If you've got any left over at the end, you can box it up and take it home. Yeah. This composition, it's built beautifully around delicious food. And that's my kind of composition.
And this is what we've seen of the Wukong in pro play. So if you go, you take a look at
What delicious food?
no. What's happening right now on the what?
Sorry, I completely threw you off. Tell me about Wukong in pro play.
I'm just saying I like delicious food, but so in solo queue, you take a look at a lot of the laning phase, spectate a lot of pros. You see it doing so well in the early game around the trades with the Q, with the armor shred, kind of building up that passive against these AD laners. But in pro play, it seems like we've just seen it kind of flop. Like it doesn't lose, but you don't win as it's kind of being talked about as this terror in solo queue, right?
Yeah, we've not even had any real jungle pressure in the top side either this time. So there's no excuse for FLICKR aside from matchup specific. But if it has this awful matchup, I mean, Set was picked pretty early in this draft. Set was picked first. You picked the Wukong into Set. So if it's an issue of matchup, why did you draft it?
And to be fair, you just don't typically see this kind of crazy like solo kill 1v1 pressure in competitive. Ooh, really good haymaker.
Yeah, FLICKR tried to dodge it there, but it's too little too late on the clone, and doesn't mean that Zoom able to get a huge amount of damage. And that seems to be consistently the way that these trades are going. Zoom just going way out ahead.
And you should be able to dodge the haymaker, of course, with your W, which does give you a bit of a dash. So when you still come out on the losing end, when you do use your W, that's just a huge negative for FLICKR.
Yeah. I mean, the haymaker is very much the pivotal part of the trading pattern for Set. If you do have that on cooldown, it's a pretty long cooldown in the early game, so that's the opportunity for FLICKR to punish the Set.
And I love that we see Lumao roaming around the map. Ooh, maybe Maple's in trouble.
He could be. He's going to try and finish pushing this wave out, and the second he steps up, here comes Lumao, exhaust as well as a culling. Maple still with his flash available, and his whole team is here. Suddenly JDG, they're in the wrong neighborhood. Equalizer comes down. There's the slow. Don't think they can quite follow up for a kill, but good teamwork, good answer coming out from LNG to save Maple.
Yep, LNG kind of being on the same page with that one. Another thing I liked looking back at Lumao was he did hold his hook. He didn't feel the need to throw that rocket grab, which is good. Does still have that up. Doesn't waste any mana, doesn't waste any cooldown. And now he's going to be able to posture for this blue buff. Aw, he missed.
Good effort. Valiant effort there from the side of Lumao.
I was kind of raising him up as this unsung hero. And
I don't feel like he's even that unsung, by the way.
That's true.
I feel like Lumao gets a decent amount of praise. I think people know that this guy, he's a playmaker.
Second most consistent member on this team so far, with obviously Kanavi being the first, Zoom not being in the lineup. Lumao's been the other big kind of playmaker, which is expected, right? Loken isn't the type of AD carry.
Oh, no.
Loken isn't an AD carry this game, so
true.
That could just be the hard end of that sentence.
It was almost the hard end of Loken's life, but he flashed away from the hook. Now, though, we've got everyone coming on in. Cataclysm available, but he just gets popped. Maple now trying to get in. The stopwatch available for Loken. Lumao going to try and protect this Syndra. The damage isn't quite there. Death Sentence finishes it off, though. Lumao, does he have hook? Doesn't look like it for now.
Whoa.
He's going to stop the wave. Oh, Maple, you're going to get CC'd, my friend. You don't get out of this one. Has to flash. The heal comes through from Light as well. You know what? He's going to go down.
I'm going to say
valiant effort from Lumao.
I don't care that he's dead. That was amazing. And JDG still coming out with a win when, again, LNG dedicate all their resources bot. You still pick up a kill yourselves. You waste so much time that you're going to be able to get this mid lane turret.
They might even get a second charge here. FLICKR going to try and stop that. In the meantime, Zoom as well going to stay up in the top lane. The amount of pressure that Loken and Lumao as a duo soaked there against 4 people, that's just insane.
Just great job coming out from JDG. They're getting so much across the map.
Worth mentioning as a bonus point there, JDG had already taken the first dragon. So LNG, even though they're making that dive in the bottom lane, they don't have a neutral objective to get off the back of it either anyway. So ultimately, what did they really achieve? They got 2 plates.
I was going to say, it took so long too that they weren't able to really even pressure any more plates, right? Because they're like, oh god, we need to go mid lane. They're using this Rift Herald.
Uh-oh. FLICKR, I don't know if you win this fight. Zoom just going to win out the trade and walk away. Quite happy with that one.
Yep, Flandre having a much stronger extended trade, especially with that attack speed coming out from the E, just really able to stack up that Conqueror. Of course, he has the Cutlass in his inventory right now. So, but Zoom feeling happy, you still land the Haymaker, you still put some punishment back onto Flandre, you get out just fine.
Yep, he's going to be able to do whatever he wants there, and already has the Ninja Tabi as well, so it makes Flandre's job a little bit harder in the top lane until he finishes off that Blade of the Rune King. Maybe looks towards something like the Black Cleaver as well.
I love this from LNG, pushing out mid lane, making their way back down bot, trying to find this pick onto Loken.
The stun doesn't go through in time, and with a Cataclysm and an Equalizer, that's the spicy hot bot we've all been talking about. Light gets the kill as well on this Lethality Varus. He already has that Umbral Glaive, so his damage will be very real in that bottom side. This time there is a dragon to gain.
And Light is someone we haven't talked about much this series, despite coming in instead of Asura. Asura, of course, has always been the big carry of this team, putting up insane damage numbers, being so great in team fights. But speaking of team fights...
Yeah, Dragon's going to be taken there. Wasn't even smited in the end. It was Light that finished it off. And it's just too little too late here from JDG to capitalize. Let's try and find a pick. Lu Mao. Look how far into the enemy jungle JDG are willing to go. Lu Mao just trying to get as much deep vision as possible. In fact, no, he's just looking for picks.
I guess when they know that LNG needs to make a reset, their members are getting back on the map after their buys. They do feel fine kind of making this aggressive play in the enemy jungle.
Kanavi going to get a bonus probe off the back of everything as well. In fact, he might just take the whole camp for himself. Because he's got Lu Mao there, waiting to find a pick. Red buff has spawned, and they don't want LNG to get anything now. They've gone back into game one mode, where they are going to contest absolutely anything and everything that LNG try and do.
And it's blind, so they do have to be very careful of this rocket grab coming out from Lu Mao. I like the choice by LNG. You don't need to walk in there. You don't need to contest. We talked about how their mid game will become much stronger than JDG's.
But only if JDG allows that to happen. Lu Mao and the Death Squad roaming around together, trying to find picks. They have been unsuccessful, though. They got a red buff for themselves, but that's it.
And I like that you just used the word picks, because this is where the game will transition to now, where we look at the side of JDG. It is all about kind of moving somewhere first, getting that vision set up, finding people kind of in the headlights on the side of LNG and pulling them in, getting the picks. For LNG, you want to wait for these neutral objectives, set up these team fights, and we've already seen the vast amounts of AoE on the side of, you know, LNG.
Yeah, and with Duan and XX there to keep them locked up with the knockups from Flandre, if they can get that miracle wombo combo, if they can get that dream fight that they're looking for, that could be lights out for JDG. Still a long way off, though. Showstopper just going to pull Flandre away from the tower, but it's not going to make a difference. That's a big haymaker, but he's completely alone. Zoom goes down.
Just overextension by Zoom when your bot lane is forcing the turret for free. LNG are nowhere on the map. They're not pushing mid. You don't see them bot, so they must be top. As Zoom in that situation, you just need to back off and say, hey, we're splitting the map.
Zoom on his debut game as he's returned to the LPL here, overextending a little bit. Well, I guess not. This one's not his debut game. It's still his debut series, though. Overextending a little bit on this set. He's going to be punished for that one. But to an extent, that's to be expected when you've got someone rejoining the roster. They've been playing with 705 for a good while. They played their first 2 series of the split with Zoom. But ever since then, they've played 8 series with 705.
And they're still doing good in the objective department. We see all the gold they got from plates plus 2,000, which is pretty much their advantage. And the fact that they got the bot turret so much quicker than LNG, they are going to be able to get back on the map sooner and start trying to force this river vision topside. But Flandre has TP, so actually, no, they can't.
Yeah, no vision force right there. But the whole squad has moved on up. Now with Rift Herald on the map. Dragon spawning in a minute and a half as well. It's going to be LNG that start this Herald off, as Lu Mao will try and find himself a pick. Light could be the target here. Lantern gets into safety. No predict available, and now Flandre has found a 1v1 with Zoom. He has to flash away. Nice capitalization here from the side of LNG. Remember, they're the ones that have the team fight advantage. JDG, they don't want a 5v5. They want to try and pick someone off. In goes Kanavi. He actually gets the steal. Lumao gets the Herald as well. Chains of Corruption come on through. Lumao will be finished off. What else can LNG get? Because they've got to find something. Cataclysm goes in. Loken flashes away. There's the equalizer onto both carries. This is a huge fight for LNG. Flash forward for Maple. There's the double kill for him. Showstopper onto Duan. Can Zoom answer? Kanavi can't get the stun though. And Duan keeps the CC chain rolling. Zoom finishes him off. 7-5 on the scoreboard.
LNG coming out slightly ahead in the fight, but still massive misplay by XX to get outsmited by Kanavi. If you're JDG, that feels like a win. You might lose one more member, but you still end up with the objective.
And just the feeling of how well coordinated that was from JDG. You've got Kanavi coming in from the top side, gets the smite off. In the meantime, Lumao blasts into the pit to grab the Eye of the Herald for himself.
We see it here, just really good Cocoon kind of just sneaks over to get that Herald. And then as we see the fight, LNG are the ones who started. They pick off Lumao right away. They go instantly onto Yagao. Looks very good. Maple was stunned, so he had to wait on that equalizer, but still very good coming out from him. Aggressively flashing forward here. I love it to kind of finish off the fight. And we've seen Maple struggle a bit this split, and those are the kinds of skirmishes that we need to see from him for this team to start performing better.
Yeah, this is the performance we need to see out of Maple if he's going to match up against Yagao in this Rumble, looking like the pick that is going to succeed for him. The equalizers so far this game have been fantastic. He's going to finish off the Morella Nomicon as well. So he's going to hit a relatively large power spike. And look at this. They're just waiting. JDG, they want the pick here. It's going to be Kanavi and Yagao. That is a lot of front-loaded damage if Flandre gets caught.
And I like this from JDG because we set up that they need to find these kinds of plays. They don't want to group up and look for these team situations, but...
heartbreak. He's just going to go the other direction.
Flandre's a very respectable guy, respects everyone around him, doesn't give those types of opportunities.
Always says please and thank you,
You know, maybe he gave those opportunities game one, but not this game.
He's found himself a red buff instead. He's quite happy to grab that one for himself. And the recall comes through from JDG. They're going to be walking away with their heads in their hands. What a waste of time in the bottom lane.
For LNG, this is what we want to see make their way towards mid as a group. Use your Varus to start laying down this damage, having Flandre roam over once he is pushed, and again, contesting as a team.
And Avi nearly gets hooked in the jungle there. That would have been bad news. Because he is going to be Oppo OP once again. He got it in game one as well. And he really has been the driving force for JDG. 2-0-2 on this Elise. We saw him dominating on his Trundle in game number one. He was the MVP.
For JDG, I feel like at this point you have two options with that Elise. You either kind of hover around mid and bet on Lumao making a hook, which is kind of risky, so I would say the better option is just doing what you've been doing. Keep playing with Yagao's pressure, looking for that setup. His exhaust is going to come up soon, so it's going to be very easy for you to land that cocoon, get the numbers advantage, and then try to force the objective.
That's what they need to try and achieve, but has to be said, if they can't find that, when it comes to team fighting, you have to give the advantage over to LNG with this combination that they have for themselves. And the lethality Varus as well, going to do very well in the team fights, just the poke he's able to offer. It's almost like having an assassin where you can essentially just go straight for the back line.
I do want to say, though, that they're, even in team fights, their composition is it's obviously very ult-reliant, so if something isn't on point, especially if the equalizer doesn't hit well, that's where a lot of your damage is on this comp. The sustained damage, you look at someone like Illusion, he's going to have a ton of that. We saw in the last fight Set as well, doing very well in these extended trades in the mid game.
We'll see if the trades will continue to be extended across the course of this game. We do have a pause coming through once again. Apologies about this one, everyone at home, but we'll hopefully be able to, hopefully it'll be just as short as the last pause was, and we'll be able to keep things rolling here. But yeah, definitely a good start for JDG. Not as convincing of a start as we saw in game number 1, though. And LNG, it feels like, especially in the draft at least, they have found much more of a footing for themselves. They found a much more convincing position to be fighting from.
The thing I like about what LNG have done this game is they have tools to start contesting. Even if they did fall a bit behind in the early game from that bot side gank, we saw once it gets to these objective team fights, JDG knows, hey, whoa, we can't exactly just walk into this composition. It is quite dangerous.
Yeah, and it has to be said as well, XX has stepped up on this job, and his cataclysms have been great. Waiting until the mobility abilities have been used before he goes for the cataclysm. Make sure that he forces out the flashes if they are available. And really, really great combo from him and Maple, and especially when we're talking about the jungle mid-duo combos. Kanavi and Yagao have been one of the strongest mid-jungles in the league so far this split. They've been looking fantastic. We were talking about Yagao and his LeBlanc. We've been talking about Kanavi. We even had B-roll of him at the start of the day. In game number 2 here, XX and Maple have been stepping up to that along with the rest of the team.
Well, and especially for the side of XX, he's been one of their most consistent performing members on this team. He's done very well in a lot of these early games. And we talked about how we describe them as opportunists just in reference to LPL, where you do have a lot of teams who, no matter what they draft, they're going to do the same thing like eStar. They're always going to look bot lane. LNG are a team that plays around their draft, plays around where they have pressure. If there's an opportunity top, they go top. If there's an opportunity mid, they go mid. And so on and so forth. So XX has always been, at least, always been as in this split on LNG, been so consistent with setting his team up for success.
And it's kind of a similar story on the side of JDG as well. You mentioned how the composition almost fits the style of the team. JDG are all about finding an opportunity, finding someone out of position, capitalizing, and then looking for the objective. They're not the kind of team that wants to just fight for the sake of fighting. They fight because there's an objective. They swap for the Herald. They play around Baron. They play around the neutral objectives and around the towers. This composition is exactly designed to do that. They want to find a hook on the Blitzcrank. They want to find a cocoon with Elise, capitalize on a singular pick, and then look to the objective.
It is also a bit different, though, them going towards something like the Syndra Blitzcrank. Of course, JDG have been the team that has thrown a few curveballs. We've seen Lumao already pick up his famous Bard this split. He has played one game of the Rumble, of course, with the Fasting Senna, so they're a team that's kind of willing to bring out these spicy picks. But at the same time, this is much different because this is all about getting an early game lead and accelerating it as quickly as possible.
Well, we are going to be back into game, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies about the slight delay there. JDG, just to recap, for anyone who's missed the first portions of this game, JDG so far have got themselves a little bit of a lead here. 2,500 at the 20-minute mark, and they've got the first two Drake, or the first Drake and then the third Drake for themselves. They do have an advantage in the towers, so things are looking good for JDG, but it's certainly not enough of a lead to count out LNG just yet.
And JDG are doing what we expected of them. We talked about Kanavi staying with Yagao, getting pressure from the side lane, trying to find a pick, and then bringing that over to his team. I like that LNG are also adapting. We saw that XX waiting in the wings and Light heading up, knowing, hey, this is what they want to do. Let's try to counter this play. Because if LNG are able to shut down what JDG want to do, again, we can see the snowball quickly start rolling in the other direction.
We really can. The Black Cleaver's been finished for Flandre, though, in the top lane. So those ultimates will be significantly more effective. They will reduce the armor on the entire team from JDG if he's able to hit enough targets with the ultimate. And importantly, that sets up the damage available from Light. This lethality virus will really benefit from the armor shred.
Yep, of course, the less armor you have, the better lethality does. So really like that combo coming out from the side of LNG. And moving over to Zoom, he went full-on tank, full-on team fight. He's going to be a really big member looking at right now.
Dragons within 30 seconds of both teams. They want to fight for this one. Hooks on both supports here, but it's Dewan that falls to start the fight. In goes the Cataclysm. The Equalizer not quite on it, but Yagao flashes onto the likes of that one. Redemption down. Double kill comes through for Kanavi in the end. It is going to be JDG winning out the fight.
And Zoom played that so well. We saw Zoom move straight over to Maple and Flandre, kind of zone them out from being able to do anything, use that E, pull them together, combo with Kanavi's damage, and this is what we've always loved about Zoom. He's such a good team player. always arguably been the best team top laner in the LPL. Again, so good at using these TPs, so good in skirmishes, great as a frontliner, great on a damage carry.
And this is something that Set excels at as, oh, XX has been found, Loken. Very nice positioning for him. He was just waiting in that brush for XX to try and make this contest. Third Drake now going the way of JDG. That is going to be sole point for them.
And looking back, another point about that last fight is LNG never got a chance. Oh, great. LNG never get a chance to kind of make this 5v5 play. They start it off, and Zoom comes in with such a good showstopper, pulling these two away. And we talked about that Rumble damage is so important. That Flandre ultimate is so important. If they're not able to use it, if it's not a straight front-to-back 5v5, LNG's comp is pretty much useless. Such
a great face breaker from Zoom in that fight as well. You mentioned how he's the best top laner in the league, or one of at least, in these kind of skirmishes, in moving down to support his team and make things happen. That was a beautiful double stun.
I'd say we have, you know, the kind of two styles of top laner here in LPL. You have the Shy or you have Zoom. And they're both at the best in their category, but
aside from Morgan, who is the best in all categories.
Whoa. You know who Morgan learned everything from was this man right here carrying that last team fight.
No, dude. He taught Zoom everything he knows.
We actually have that matchup soon.
I can't wait. I actually can't wait for Zoom against Morgan. It's going to be really exciting. And like, memes aside, I actually think Morgan is an incredibly good top laner. That's a conversation for a different time. Morgan's not in this game. Herald is not going to be respawning because we'll be on the 20-minute mark. My brain is doing somersaults right now. Baron is on the map, though. Neither team really has a great Baron taking composition. They're not going to do it that quickly. Although Lucian does have the Blade of the Rune King.
I'd say you look at both team comps. Neither of them have great consistent DPS on either side, which is why we see Loken bringing out that Zhonya's Hourglass, knowing, hey, if I can survive this initial barrage of ultimates and damage, if Yagao can play these fights well, we can come out ahead in the long run. And again, same thing for the side of LNG. Hey, if something like a Cocoon doesn't pick us off, if we don't get hooked by Lumao, they're in the same position. So two very similar compositions in that sense.
Yeah, it's like if it doesn't all quite connect in the right way, suddenly it all feels a little bit disjointed.
It all falls apart, right?
Yeah. Feels like it doesn't quite do what it said on the tin, and at that point you're going to be looking for a refund. Like, I don't know if you get a refund in the LPL, though.
You definitely don't. But both compositions are focused on that like initial burst of damage, just in different ways. Obviously, we set up one as a pick comp, one as a team fight comp, but it's all about that initial burst.
Navi wants to try and find a pick here onto Light. Light's got his whole squad just waiting in the middle brush, and Kanavi sees better of the situation. Gets a Cocoon onto XX, Maple pulled into the team. Cullen goes down as well. But it's just like you say, if it doesn't really all line up quite in the right way, it won't work out.
And it was really awkward coordination on the side of JDG where Zoom went in with the showstopper, wasn't on the same page with Lumao, because had they been set up, he could go for the showstopper, Lumao be standing back, chain that into a rocket grab. You have one member of LNG right in the middle of your team.
And Lumao actually got a really good rocket grab. It was onto Light, but had the Veil of Night available, so won't be able to protect himself, or won't be able to get the hook in the end. Important power spike for Loken. He has finished the Zhonya's Hourglass, so not only is it an incredibly big item just in terms of his damage, but also will be safer in the fights. And as I say it, the same thing has come through for Kanavi as well. So these fights suddenly just became a lot more difficult for LNG, because when your combo is AoEing inside of a Cataclysm and two of your targets can become completely invulnerable while the equalizer's down, doesn't feel as convincing. And then, again, your cooldowns are down. You need to wait for another rotation of spells, and we've set up their comp is very burst reliant. That's then JDG's turn to kind of get those kills in those skirmishes. So it really feels like it's going to come down to who pulls the trigger first will win if their abilities hit. If their abilities don't hit, if you're like JDG and LNG throw everything at me and it misses, well, you know, again, you pretty much get one shot on both teams. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. Because this opportunity will come once every couple of minutes when the cooldowns are available. Yeah. Yeah, it has to be said, though, I feel like the Zhonyas are going to be a big, big impact in these fights, but the same can be said for things like the Edge of Night.
And just keep your eyes on Zoom. We saw he was the one to set up that first team fight. If he can separate the members of LNG and make it a bit more of a chaotic skirmish, I do favor JDG.
XX takes a bit of a chunk from Yagao. There's a rocket grab. I don't know if Jarvan's really the target. Equalizer across the squad. Lumao has to flash away. Zoom with a big old haymaker, but nobody's being finished off just yet. Maple, the first one to drop. Everybody low on both sides, but it's only one kill. And now onto the Dragon. XX still available to try and contest for this one. Lumao misses the rocket grab. They pull the Dragon out. This would be Soul if they can just finish this one. XX goes in, but it's too late. Rocket grab will be available. There's no way out. There's a kill. In the meantime, Zoom is disrupting the whole squad for LNG. There's nowhere they can go. Flandre takes the lantern just to try and escape. Haymaker onto Duan. Rocket grab just goes shy. But JDG, a Mountain Soul for the second time this series.
And that's going to be great on someone like Zoom, who we've seen completely go towards resistances. So just having 3 Mountain Drakes will be really massive. And we saw in that last team fight that LNG kind of initially get picked off. XX gets pulled by Lumao, and they are all able to kite back a bit, and it left Yagao off to the side to deal damage freely. So we're going to see right here, starting with that calling, doing a bit of damage, Lumao pulling in XX, and we see all of the damage come down, Lumao able to flash out, nothing hits Kanavi, and Yagao's just off to the side dealing all this free damage. The equalizer pretty much flubbed and only hit Zoom.
And Yagao as well, getting basically the 1v. What is the damage? Kanavi! Oh my lord, that is insane. In the meantime, the rest of the team is winning the fight as well. Flandre barely gets out, but Kanavi, he wants another one. Double kill on the Spider, 6-0 and 4. He wants back-to-back MVPs.
He's done so well. We set this up as a pick comp. He's finding the pick single-handedly. Last year, not being able to find this level of consistency because he didn't get to play every game. But this year, putting his name in the argument of best jungler in the LPL.
That is insane stuff coming out from Kanavi. This entire series has looked amazing from him. And there's plenty more where that came from. Look in his inventory. He's got a Majai's Soul Stealer on 10 stacks right there. He knows that this one is looking fantastic for JDG. 8,000 gold lead now. They've got the Baron. Just, what is that burst, man?
But Lumao hitting another great hook, just completely bursting out. Duan, Haymaker doing a massive amount of damage, easily able to convert this into the Baron. And now with this Mountain Shield, I don't think LNG have the damage to take down a member of JDG.
Mountain Soul is, oh, hang on. Do you have a pick?
But no damage.
You don't get to pick onto Kanavi. That he kills you, not the other way around.
Like, it feels like on the side of LNG, you either need to get a pick onto Loken or Yagao, kind of like overstepping or caught out by themselves. If you're engaging on them as a team, it's just not going to happen.
You're just too far behind at this point. And, you know, Lethality Varus literally wakes up in the night in cold sweats because of nightmares about Mountain Soul.
Yeah.
Like, this is the worst case scenario if you're playing Lethality Varus. It just blocks basically all of the damage that you offer.
Zoom can just stand right in front of them and tank everything, and it's going to do nothing, especially once you add in his passive health regen. And that's what he's doing. He doesn't care.
He's just going to walk forward. Zoom. He's like, I'm not under the tower anymore. The showstopper, there's a Haymaker. And that is a confidence play if I ever saw one from JDG. Now onto the inhibitor. XX, he's ignited. He just about makes it to the fountain. Barely. But it's at the cost of 2 inhibitors. JDG just waltz out of the base. They're going to buy a few items and then finish this one up.
You know, the best part was I was just kind of blindly saying without it showing on the screen, yeah, you know, Zoom can play like this. He can just walk up and ignore all of them, not thinking he would actually do it. It does show, like, just how far ahead they are, how much he's getting out of these resistances with these Mountain Drakes, with this Mountain Soul. He literally took all of their cooldowns.
And I love how he literally does this showstopper onto Duan, just delivers Duan to Yagao. Like, here you go, here's a low HP Thresh for you to finish off.
Also going to have a much larger health pool to pull that Haymaker from and do more initial burst, which I really like on the side of Zoom.
So now it's just a matter of formalizing this game for the side of JDG. Oh no, another pick comes through. Lantern's in the wrong place. XX has to use that flag and drag just to keep himself alive. FLICKR was in the bottom side of the map, which means JDG, they've got the inside track on this inhibitor tower, and look how fast they can burn through it. FLICKR not going to be there in time to get the ultimate across them. There's an equalizer down, but it doesn't do anything. Stun goes down onto XX, and he's just dropped immediately. This is going to be the game here. LNG, they're floundering at this point. There's nothing they can do. Yagao flashes away, keeps himself alive, a little bit of lifesteal. Now onto the inhibitor as well. Baron has dropped, but this will be double supers in every lane. Maybe JDG can't quite end.
JDG have always been a team, we talked about it, are probably the most methodical team in the LPL. They will really never at least now, they will not overforce things this split.
Yeah.
Last year they were a bit scrappier in the way they did things, but since we've seen Kanavi kind of become a full-time starter on this team, they really, we talked about, they played for those guaranteed wins.
And also, look at the clock on the top left of your screen. 30 seconds until Elder Dragon. There's no way LNG can 5v5 you straight up right now. You're so far ahead. You got double supers in every lane. Play it safe, get the Elder, guarantee the win.
And we saw in that top lane fight.
Oh no, Duan, he just wanted wards, man. He just wanted wards.
This has been one of the problems we've seen of Duan, where he does kind of get caught out in the jungle just doing his own thing. Of course, LNG did try and bring Iwandi in last time, but look at your mini-map. FLICKR is coming in for the TP.
Well, I hope he's ready to TP into a 4v5, because I don't know really what he's going to be able to achieve with that one. I mean, I appreciate that they want to try and contest, but oh no, hook onto Maple. Haymaker's there, that's the flash out of Maple, and a whole bunch of his health as well. In the meantime, you've got Yagao and you've got Kanavi taking the Elder. It's finally going to go down, and that means FLICKR's clone will be obliterated. There's the real FLICKR, now onto Light as well. That is going to be the end of the game. JDG just waltzed this one in. When we looked at their schedule, they are looking like a playoff contender, but they're making a statement for high seeding right here. They're currently in 7th, but this is going to boost their standings just a little bit more. And now they're going to go fountain fishing. Blue Mao just waiting for that rocket grab, waiting for bonus kills to come on through. Doesn't get it. They decide it's time to end the game.
And this is what I'm glad we saw this out of JDG this year.